Canada is really stronger when we are diverse, and hijabi women are welcome here and deserve to feel safe just as much as any other Canadian.
Messages of support and flowers were distributed last week at an Edmonton LRT station following an alleged hate crime. Cell phone video captured a man holding what appears to be a noose made of rope and telling two women wearing hijabs, "This is for you," followed by singing the national anthem. Police released a suspect without charge, but say he is still considered a person of interest. Greg, to you first. Police have cell phone footage, yet no charges were laid. Why might that be?
Well, Michael, hate crimes in Canada, contrary to what the general public thinks, are a very narrow subset of laws in the criminal justice system. You know, it's not against the law to be a racist in Canada. It's not against the law to say racist things in Canada. What's protected or criminalized under the criminal code are some very specific issues of communication in which individuals disseminate hateful propaganda in a public fashion designed to incite hatred against an identifiable group. Private communications are not covered under this. Private interactions between individuals are not covered under this. So it's something that's relatively, it takes up a very small place in terms of our criminal justice system, and it's not something that you know, the general person thinks about as, well, someone said something that was hateful or someone said something that was racist is necessarily criminalized. Now, there are some instances in which, in criminal law, in which what we call a predicate offense. And if there's a criminal offense that's been committed, so for example, an assault or murder, and those offenses and the motivation for those offenses is the fact that someone had some racial bias or some was based upon hate, then if the criminal offense is established, the issue of race and the motivation can be used as an aggravating factor in sentencing. But in and of itself, as I indicated before, although it's unseemly and it's distasteful, saying racist things to individuals in Canada is not criminalized.
So Erin, then why is there so much confusion around what constitutes hate crime?
Well, I think related to what Greg said, I think it's difficult for us to know exactly what would constitute a hate crime, because there are varying definitions across police forces, even within Canada. One of the issues that seems to arise is whether or not crime is committed solely motivated by hate or in part motivated by hate. And there are distinctions across police services and in terms of how these issues and these circumstances get recorded because of that variability with regard to how much of a component has to, race or hatred, not race, hatred has to figure into the crime before it gets recorded as a hate crime.
Unfortunately, acts of intolerance have been generating headlines of late in Alberta. In the fall, racist posters were displayed in and around the University of Calgary campus. And in the weeks following, residents of several Edmonton neighborhoods were alarmed to find anti-Islamic posters in their mailboxes. Mark, are we actually seeing a spike in racism, or is this a consequence of more attention is being paid to it?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there is a bit of a spike in regards to intolerance and racist behaviors. I think it's been precipitated by the U.S. I think it's been ongoing because of the conflict within the Middle East and all the rhetoric associated with that, and also because of the whole explosion of social media and the anonymity of people being able to leave comments on discussion pages. So those that have a tendency, maybe deep inside, that harbor racist views are more likely to find an avenue to speak out. And unfortunately, that has an effect. But to counter that, there's been a number of positive pushbacks, as you saw earlier, as you saw the student body at the U of A really step forward. You saw, you know, the Make It Awkward campaign.
Jesse
Lipscomb, and we have organizations within the city like the Edmonton John Humphrey Center for Human Rights and Dignity, the Youth Restorative Action Project. So there's a lot of people that are concerned about this and working together. I've worked with the African Center and the Mennonite Center for Newcomers, and you know, they're very aware of this situation, and collaboratively as a community, I think we're winning the war.
Well, and Erin, with that in mind, is it still possible, though? A lot of situations are going unreported.
I think there's lots of reasons why people don't report this type of crime or any type of crime. I think one of the things that may come into play in terms of witnesses reporting is they may be fearful that they may be the subject of future attack. And also there's a lot of these crimes that tend to be property related, and it may be as easy for an individual to take his or her concern to their insurance agency and skip reporting to police altogether.
All right, time for a break.